Hello everybody, my name's James, and for the benefit of those listening on the audio, you're listening to my Ask James stream where I welcome questions from the YouTube community on anything football related. To timestamp this, it's just gone 3 p.m. UK time on Friday, February the 18th. Before I get into the questions, let me just take you through the essential team news. Diogo Jota definitely out for Liverpool for the game against Norwich. Jurgen Klopp can't confirm at this stage on the severity of the injury. He said it could be quite quick, could be quite long, but he definitely won't play against Norwich tomorrow. Tommy Asu's been training for Arsenal, could be available. For Tottenham, Eric Dyer should be available. One Tottenham player has COVID, an unnamed player. Sergio Reguilon has not been seen in photos this week. I think people can probably link the two. Jack Grealish still not available for Manchester City. Damari Gray's out for Everton. Conor Gallagher is ineligible for the first of Crystal Palace's double header. Won't play against parent club Chelsea. Martin Weghorst is available for Burnley. Lewis Dunk is suspended for Brighton. Wolves have a fully fit squad, which could even include a return to the squad of Pedro Neto, who's been out for around about 10 months. Kurt Zuma is expected to be available for West Ham. Adam Eder will be out for the rest of the season for Norwich City. I think that covers the essentials on team news for you. Let's get into the chat. I'll answer as many questions as I can without going overboard over the next hour or so. FPL Kaka is first. Says, hi James, which one is best for this week? Weghorst or Jimenez? For me, that would be a straightforward one. Raul Jimenez for me, mate. Playing against Leicester. Kaglas Yunchu is actually a doubt for Leicester, and I fancy Wolves to win on Sunday. If you were asking me, I think Burnley probably scored once in this double, Wolves 3 times. So if you were going for both weeks, then I'd probably say Weghorst. But if you're free hitting this week and it's for 26, I'd go Jimenez, mate. Daniel Thomas says, hi James, hope you're well. Bench one of Jota, Weghorst or 8 Nori. Oh, it's Jota, isn't it? I'd be very surprised if he plays against Leeds. I think he's probably a sell for the majority of people, bar perhaps those who have got big value built up and are looking to free hit in game week 27. I know, for example, Suj is not free hitting in game week 27, but his intention at the moment is actually to keep Jota. Mine is to sell. So I think it's Jota, isn't it? The other two have got doubles. Weghorst will start twice, I should imagine. 8 Nori's kind of 50-50 whether he will or not. He's definitely first choice for Wolves, but obviously every chance they could rotate, particularly when his second game Arsenal is on Thursday, and then it's West Ham 3 days later in game week 27. Morady Explorer says, hi James, I was able to move Gray to Salah last game week, so I'm stuck with blanking Bernardo Silva. Start him over Trossard this game week. Also, he is a pain to move on from, could be a differential. Yeah, look, I would definitely play Bernardo over Leandro Trossard this week. I mean, it's quite a straightforward one personally. Yeah, he's one of them players who's become difficult to move. He was my cash cow, obviously, to get back to Mo Salah last week. So, but if you've got a start, isn't it, in that comparison? I think for most cases, if it's a doubler, I'm going to say play the doubler over Bernardo in the majority of cases. But I think over Trossard, no, there's not even any guarantee that Trossard will start, is there? So I think you play Bernardo Silva, mate. FPL Cack also says, do you think it is essential, you should know me better not to use that word, mate, to get a third Liverpool asset even if results in a -4, like VVD, for example? No, I don't. It probably means I'm going in with 2, which would be Trent and triple captain for me, Mo Salah. So, no, I obviously don't. I'm likely to go Tarkowski, actually. The way I'm looking at it is it would be -4 to get Robertson now. I think he probably starts twice, but it's not a guarantee. And then another -4 to probably move it on again, because it will still leave me with 10 for game week 27. I was umming and ahhing about whether I was going to sell Jota next week or not. So it's kind of made that, in a weird way, it's made the decision for me, isn't it? So look, ideally, of course, you want 3 Liverpool players this week. Essential, no, and I'm going to go down a different route. I absolutely could buy Andy Robertson, not a problem, but I'm not going to. Sagnick says, why isn't there no love for Diaz? Pretty sure Peeps would have taken it had Jota played 120 minutes in the double, and I expect similar minutes for Diaz, so really surprised that no one is talking about Diaz. I think part of the problem with that is it's a compare the two. Jota is the second highest scorer in the league. Many people won't have seen Luis Diaz yet, who is absolutely super talent, but is also walking into game week 27 if you're not free hitting and going, I'm getting this player in and he's going to blank, and then does he play in game week 28? You're possibly setting yourself up for a problem money-wise further down the line. I think that's the real reason why I say it. If you've got a particular fancy for it, crack on. I'm not going to tell you no way. He's not of interest to myself. I think purely because of that. I'd look at it and go, for this week, great. Going to give me a headache afterwards. Chances are as well, you might be thinking, I'll go back to Jota. Well, unless Liverpool double in 29, your priorities are going to be elsewhere. So that's why I think not many are looking at Diaz at the moment. Morid Explorer says, what player stocks have changed the most this season? From the top of my head, Vestergaard and Martinelli. Vestergaard's been a disaster for Leicester, unfortunately, hasn't it? Martinelli, difficult to quantify because he's a young player, and I think everybody knew the ability was there. He kind of had a breakout sort of December or so, calmed down a little bit since then. I think Jose Sarr and Ramsdale. I think Aaron Ramsdale in terms of changing people's opinion, where when he signed, let's be honest, most people were saying that Arsenal had spent too much. What was the reasoning? Was he even going to be first choice? So I think Aaron Ramsdale is the standout one that's probably really changed people's opinions. FPL Finding Glory afternoon, swap Jota for Diaz. We've just covered that, so I'm not going to cover that again. Thanks for the question. FPL Invincible says, afternoon James, do you think it's worth to sell Dominic Calvert-Lewin and Edouard to Jimenez and Weghorst? I'm planning to use my second free hit in game week 30. So you're moving to two players who will play most probably in game week 30. Obviously Burnley will if West Ham beat Southampton in the FA Cup in 12 days time. No, I wouldn't move Edouard on. I think he's a painful one. They've also on paper got a great fixture against Burnley. So, I mean, even look at it this way. Let's say he played against Chelsea but didn't start against Watford. Then there's a good chance he starts against Burnley in game week 27 and you may need that. So, no, I wouldn't move it on, but I'd certainly have a plan in mind in terms of what you're going to do in 28 in terms of moving on. Is it going to be a Breuer? Is it Che Adams is right on my radar now to sort of potentially go with Breuer. I wanted to go to Adamida in the next few weeks. That's obviously off the table now. So it might be that I stay with a front three. And I quite like the switching fixtures for, well, it's now really for Southampton, but I'm not going to force them in now. But my early plans for 27 right now would be to buy Breuer and Che Adams as it stands. I've got Norwich, Villa, Watford, 27 to 29. And if I go double Burnley, which is my current intention, I can't promise I'm going to do this, but my current intention is to buy Tarkowski and Maxwell Cornet, and I buy Adams and Breuer next week. If West Ham then do beat Southampton, that's 4 more players for game week 30 than I'd have had in my planning, and it might well be that then I don't free hit in 30. You might be in a similar kind of plan if you go down that route with Jimenez and Weghorst. You might start looking at it and going, well, why am I free hitting in 30 if I got these players? Burnley have a shit fixture against Chelsea in 28, but it's Brentford in 29 before 30, and Wolves have got great fixtures. Certainly after the West Ham fixture in 27, they've got a good run for a few weeks. But no, I wouldn't move Edouard on at the moment. DCL, yeah. Yeah, I mean, even look at it this way. Fine, it's Southampton this week, Corsican returning. City, Tottenham, Wolves, the 3 afterwards. I think that a fit Dominic Calvert-Lewin can do the business. We know that, but I think, yeah, that's an easier move on. FPL Red says, hi James, thanks for the top tier analysis and content. Thank you. Best Arsenal asset this week outside Ramdog and Tierney. Offensively, it's Saka. I'm inclined to say Gabriel before Saka, actually, though. The reason I'm thinking Cornet more than Saka is, again, Cornet's going to cover me off great for 27, give me effective 13 players before I even make a transfer, so it's going to cover me off for potential injuries and stuff as well. I'd have 11 with 2 Burnley doublers if I go Tarkowski and Cornet. Whereas Saka's going to put me in the same problem that I would have had with Jota. Do I think Saka outscores Cornet this week? Yes, absolutely. Do I think Saka outscores Cornet both game weeks combined? Very doubtful. I can quite comfortably bench Cornet in 28. Admittedly, I still think Arsenal will double in 28, which adds to the appeal of Saka. And I won't rule out buying Saka, but I'm certainly leaning into Cornet at the moment. So Saka or Gabriel for me. FPL Dougal says, howdy Jimbo, rate these mildly obscure Spurs strikers in order of your most to least favourite. Most to least favourite, okay, fine. Soldado, Pavlyuchenko, Postiga, Mido. I'm going to put Super Pav top, I think. He had some big moments for Spurs in some big games in that 2009-10 season where Harry Redknapp had basically jettisoned him out of the squad, and he ended up forcing his way back in, and he had a run of, he scored like 6 in 8 or something like that, a really important period where Defoe's goals had dried up and stuff, which really helped us finish 4th in the end. So I put Pavlyuchenko top of that. God, he was frustrating. I liked Soldado. Soldado was really unfortunate in the sense that he obviously came to England, it struggled to adapt, but as soon as he moved over, his missus suffered a miscarriage, so it put him in a kind of a real bad start in the first place. And the problem was Tottenham never played to his real strengths. The problem was when the chances came, and it was negative football under AVB, he invariably missed them. But he was decent. It was a shame he never really got a fair crack to play with Harry Kane. They kind of crossed over rather than played together much. I would have liked to have seen it a little bit, but yeah, I'd go Soldado. I'd go Mido over Postiga, but quite frankly, I'd rather not talk about it. Postiga had ability, but he couldn't move, and his goal scoring record was terrible. Mido had one of the best debuts I've ever seen from a Tottenham player against Portsmouth. What year are we talking about here? 2005. He never played as well as that again. A very frustrating player. Joe Finney-Badder says, best Jota replacement in Sky. Plan was to get Breuer in for him on Friday, so I just moved that forward. 0.1 million in the bank. I must say, Joe, you caught me off guard there because I've not given this any thought. But I'd refer back to the things I said on Wednesday in terms of attack things that you would have attacked this week, perhaps if you walked into problems. I'd compare it to, and for the FPL listeners, Sky is very different. You can move between forwards and defenders depending on your system, basically. I'd refer it back to kind of covering the Lewis Dunk problem that I said on Wednesday. So Gabriel at Arsenal, entry point tomorrow against Brentford. The entry point isn't great for Arsenal, but potentially then gives you arguably the best captaincy option next Thursday. And of course, Breuer or James Ward-Prowse. I think to go in now gives you the captaincy option next Friday as well. So preference would be, if you haven't got a Southampton player, I think it's pretty obvious, mate. So JWP or Breuer, whatever your preference is, mate. Cole JB says, how windy is it in Enfield? My shed feels like it's about to take off here in Surrey. It's not been that bad. If you can hear noise in the background, that is trees outside my house hailing around in the wind. It was predicted here to calm down from around about now at 3 o'clock. But yeah, I mean, it's been windy. There's trees down in the next road from me, so it's not been great. There's definitely one tree which, if it came down now, you'll know about it because it will be end of stream. It's not that bad. Obviously, we're in London, so it's not as bad as it is for certain people on the coast and stuff. But I just saw a video before I started, actually, of people getting blown over in Croydon, which isn't a million miles away from where you are, Carl. FPLD says, hi James, would you bench boost De Gea, Cancelo, Watkins and Dawson? I have 10 doublers and Bowen, hence why Cancelo is benched. Cancelo is better than one of the doublers you've got in your team. So yesterday I put a tweet out, and it was just to cause debate, but as I said on our Patreon pod earlier, I often forget that you can't have sensible debates with the majority of people on Twitter these days, unfortunately. And all I did was, it was a team of doublers, built up of 3 Liverpool, 3 Arsenal, I think it was 3 Wolves and Son and Kane, and a team of single game week players. And just asking the question, who scores more points? Now, of course, nearly everybody said the doublers, but I was just interested to see if the single game week players would get as high as sort of 10% worth of the vote. And believe it or not, They did, because a lot of them are really good options this week. I don't believe that all 10 of your doublers are better options than Cancelo. Like, I'd play Cancelo over Dennis or King this week, personally. I think Cancelo could get 15 points tomorrow. So I'd play Cancelo. That said, if they are generally great doublers, then yeah, fine. I guess the one that's a real issue there is Watkins. There is some talk in the Villa community that he might not start. I think he probably still will. But I don't think Villa will go mad against Watford. To be honest, if I look at that honestly, Dawson at 2 points, De Gea probably 3 points, Watkins 2 points, then you need a haul from Cancelo. So as good as it looks, on what I'm predicting for the weekend, it'd probably be a no. Honestly, I'd look again at playing Cancelo. Sagnick says, if I was free hitting, it was part of my point of naming those 2 free hit teams. If I was free hitting this week, I'd be 9 doublers and I'd have Cancelo and Jared Bowen. Completely understand FPLD's obviously starting Bowen. That makes sense. Sadnick says, I probably know the answer, but who do you reckon misses out from that back three when Dyer comes back? It's probably going to be Davinson Sanchez, who's had a car crash of a week. Not that Christian Romero or Ben Davies have been much better. But I suspect it's probably Davinson Sanchez. Kartik Rao says, is free hit not talked only because there won't be a better triple captain option in the future? No, I think free hit's not talked about much because most people have a really good team this week. That's it. My ideal free hit team, I looked at it, I'd still have, it certainly would have been if Jota had stayed fit, it would have only been 4 changes to my starting 11 from what I would have had. So I think that's why the single game week fixtures are so good that even if you're short of really doublers, Villa at home to Watford, great. Brighton at home to Burnley, City at home to Tottenham, Southampton at home to Everton, West Ham at home to Newcastle, and Manchester United away to Leeds are all great single game week fixtures. So I think that's why free hit's not being spoken about much, because most people got a good team anyway. FPL Dougal says, me again, which duo do you favour for this double game week only? Son and Jimenez, Lacazette and Sarr, Kane and Saka, or Fernandes and Maupay plus 4 points because it's not going to cost you to hit? No, but they're single game week players, so if it's going to be for 2 doublers, then your effective points difference off the appearance points kind of levels that out. But I get your point, my friend. Kane and Saka, I think. From that, yeah. I'll clarify my point. I did tweet this earlier on Twitter as well, because I was getting tagged a lot saying Planet FPL Pod says James says Son didn't look right. No, Son didn't look right last week. Not fully fit. Played longer than he should have in the 2 games against Southampton and Wolves. However, he's had a week's worth of training. His away record is not great. He hasn't scored away from home since game week 8. I know a lot of people are looking at buying him in. My opinion on it is it's Leeds afterwards and Everton afterwards. So even if you miss this week, there's a couple of good fixtures on the other side as well. So I think people took a little bit literally what I said on Monday's pod in terms of he doesn't look right at the moment. But certainly the free week will have helped him. He's also got a good historical record against Man City. He scored at Turf Moor a few times before. He scored the winning goal there last season. I wouldn't fancy him to do great this week. And one of the regular questions, I'm probably going to be in here somewhere, is would you do a -4 Fernandes or De Bruyne to Son? No. I'm not sure I'd move either of them players to Son for free. The majority of other players, obviously we're excluding Salah, the majority of other players, yes, I would sell for Son. The first thing I looked at when the Jota injury happened was to look at if I could get Heung-min Son and how I'd go about doing it. For me, it's not quite going to work because it's going to block me of what I want to do for 27 and 28, particularly in terms of probably Southampton. And it wouldn't block me, but it more would block me for the Chelsea players that I want to get in game week 28. So it's not going to work for me. I'm looking a little further ahead with that. But for most people, the best Jota replacement is Son. And if you can get there and it doesn't affect your future plans, buy him. Please don't be put off of buying him. Pavanar says, hey James, thinking of Trossard, Jota, Ronaldo, to Salah, Saka, Firmino for -4, or get a Liverpool defender for an extra -4. Thanks. I don't know what your extra one that you're selling for is there, mate, but the -4 that you've named is fine. All I'd say is a lot of people beginning to talk up Firmino. And there's a couple of real obvious reasons for that. One, it's a great double for Liverpool, and suddenly it looks like he's probably going to start twice. So that's really appealing. And also, obviously, the majority of forwards in the game right now are shite. Just be conscious of, just remember, when you buy Roberto Firmino, he is not one of the best free Liverpool assets in the longer term. Robertson and Jota are the best third Liverpool assets to go with Trent and Salah, in my opinion. And obviously, to move Firmino on is possibly getting you to -4 to move back to one of Liverpool players. You may find you're stuck for a while. But in terms of right now, dealing with the immediate problem, if people want to buy Firmino, I'm okay with it. Danielle says, hi James, my plan is Fernandes, Jota and Cucurella to Salah, Cornet and Tierney from -8. I'm not free hitting in 27, but I have 11 starters. I'll then get Rudiger and Saka. Have a wonderful weekend. Thanks, Dan. Where's the question mark? Thanks for sharing the plan. It sounds fine to me. Salah, Tierney, I think, would be in nearly everybody's free hit this game week if they were using it. Maxwell Cornet probably wouldn't be, but then the back-to-back doubles are obviously appealing. All the faces, Dre Rodriguez or Weghorst? Still be Weghorst for me, mate, purely because Cornet's played on the left the last few fixtures for Burnley, but he could well move back through the middle. And if he does, I think it'll be Cornet and Weghorst. So I'd pay the extra for Weghorst. Dan L says, that's just adding to his point. Angel Ross says, hi mate, who do you think will be the top scoring players in each FPL position? Is that for this game week, or is that just? I'm not going to do the rest of it. Let's say this game week then. Ramsdale and Sarr in goal. Defensively, Trent and Robertson. In midfield, Salah and Mane. And up front, Firmino and... This is boring, this, isn't it? Firmino and... Kane. A man can't says, hi James, if I have 2 free hits, what 2 game weeks other than 27 are the best times to play them? Thank you. Strategy dependent. So my current plan is to use the free hit chips in game week 30 and game week 33. However, as I've already mentioned, I might suddenly land in a position where I've got 4 extra players for game week 30 within the next week that I wouldn't have expected to have. And I think if I've then got sort of 7 maybe going into game week 30, I perhaps muddle through and just try and deal with it. Perhaps buy a couple of Leicester players on the day or something. Leicester have Arsenal in game week 29, so that wouldn't appeal. But yeah, I'd probably take -4 maybe for 2 Leicester in 30, and then try and wildcard out of that. I think in maybe 31 or 32. Difficult to say because it's so dependent on the cup results. I think 33 is highly likely for me, but we could also have a double game week that's bigger than it looks. I mean, what happens if suddenly, let's just say hypothetically, a few of the game week 30 fixtures get brought into game week 29. Let's say City and Brighton moves into 29. Let's say Arsenal and Liverpool gets added to 29. Let's say Watford and Everton gets brought forward into 29. Newcastle versus Palace. Let's say these fixtures get brought into 29. I might look at a free hit for that game week and then muddle through game week 30. So I think you need to now be kind of formulating your plan, because part of the idea would be, certainly you're in a position now where you should be saying, should I free hit this week? Should I free hit next week? If I don't use them, what's the idea? Well, my strategy idea at the moment is 30 and 33. I'm not in a bad enough position next week, especially if I buy the 2 Burnley players. I'm going to have 11 players, including 2 doublers next week. I'll just crack on with that. So I think 30 is likely for me. I think 33 is very probable, but I'm very flexible on the idea of that at the moment. They're certainly going to come in handy, put it that way. I've seen a few people go, when am I going to use it? Yeah, there'll be a time you want to use it. Don't worry about that. FPL Najib says, hi James, Jota to Son, Antonio to Weghorst, Dawson to Gabriel for a -8, or Jota to Saka, Dawson to Tarkowski, Sanchez or Foster to Ramsdale for a -8. Foster's fine for this week. I don't particularly expect a clean sheet, but he's goalkeeper. I don't really like thumping -4s for one doubler to another. Ramsdale could be 2 6s, for example, 12 points. Foster might save a penalty and outscore him. So I don't think that's worth the hit, personally. Of course, Ramsdale is the better option. Jota to Saka, Dawson to Tarkowski sounds pretty good to myself, but then it's impactful as well. What's let's say you go Ramsdale and Saka, right? What you do in 27? It's almost impossible for me to answer because I can only assume that if you're going Saka and Ramsdale to add to the Liverpool players, you're considering free hitting in game week 27. That's all I can assume from that. Whereas the other route doesn't give you as many problems with that, but you're obviously potentially adding Gabriel. I think I prefer option B to option A. Cole JB says, talk to me about Joel Matip for the double, and did you love his little tap on Henderson's bonds? Jordan Henderson looked well unimpressed with that. I watched PSG Real Madrid Tuesday, and I watched Inter Milan Liverpool on Wednesday. Neither were thrillers. I really enjoyed Inter Milan Liverpool actually, despite the fact it was short of goal scoring chances in the game. Real Madrid didn't really want to play against PSG. It had the right result in the end, and obviously a great moment at the end with Mbappe's brilliant goal. Matip's not a consideration, mate. No. Kanate easily plays one of the game, doesn't he? Kanate played it in Milan on Wednesday. Matip might not play at all, mate. So I think Matip is still first choice, but nah. It sounds like it's kind of the reverse of the Firmino, right? Don't waste your Liverpool spot on it, really, is where it's at. I'd rather waste the Liverpool spot at the moment on Firmino than Joel Matip. James98 says, afternoon, mate, with a defence of TAA, Cancelo, Soufal, Lamptey and Livramento, do you think taking a -4 this week for Tierney is worth it? Planning no free hit in 27, so would have Livramento, Cancelo, Lamptey / Soufal. So let's look at 27. Lamptey's at home to Villa, that's fine. Soufal's at home to Wolves, that's fine. Livramento, great fixture at home to Norwich, but we don't know if he's coming back into the team or not. Ideally, I'd move Livramento in spite of the fixtures. Honestly, Walker Peters and Romain Perraud are playing really well at the moment. There is no guarantee that he's going to rush Tino Livramento back into that team. So I think that's the one you'd sell. That's going to give you the most guaranteed starters then next week as well. So then you'd still have a back three of Cancelo, Lamptey and Soufal next week. And that seems absolutely fine. Lexus Steeleman says, thoughts on Mane this week? Can stretch to him for this week and would probably drop him down to someone cheaper and get Robertson in that third Liverpool spot come game week 28-29. Still triple captain Salah. -4 Bruno to Mane. So why not just, if you know you want to go Robertson in a few weeks, why not just go Robertson now instead? Would be what I'd ask with that. If that's where you know you're going to go, why not just find a way to Robertson now? On the face of it, Bruno Fernandes to Sadio Mane, is it worth a -4 this week? Yes, it probably is. Pavanar says, Jimenez or Lacazette? God, you need to listen to yesterday's Clash of the Correspondents, mate. We discussed both at length. It depends. So if I was free hitting this week, I'd go Lacazette. If I was buying, I'd go Jimenez. I wouldn't want Lacazette. But you really need to listen to what Adam Pritchard at 352 said on Clash of Correspondence yesterday. Michael Quigley says, holla James, any danger of wind postponements, thinking particularly the games at 3 p.m. tomorrow in Brighton and Southampton? Well, I don't think we can rule it out, and that's part why I'm definitely not set into my strategy idea, because I know I might need to move. I think very, very low probability of postponements, but I do still intend to wait for tomorrow morning just to get a little bit of clearer indication before making transfers. I am 98% sure that all the games will go ahead. Interestingly, I tell you one that's a little bit dangerous, and it depends on the weather up north, and I know this from experience, and I spoke about this when was in November, actually, ironically, before I travelled up north to go to Burnley before it was postponed. Manchester City. So the problem with Manchester City is the staircases are very open. They're not like most kind of enclosed staircases. They're very open. It's kind of a big open space, and the staircase goes around like that. If someone gets blown over, it's game over, mate. And the problem is there's air vents that come through. And if it's really windy, those staircases will be too dangerous. Honestly, I would bet money if Manchester City were at home to Tottenham today, the game would not happen. So a lot of it's not just about, oh, okay, in the south there's problems. So in the south it could be that there's perhaps danger on the roads or things like that could affect the game, rather than just the surrounding area. You have to consider these travelling fans as well. But Man City is the only one I can think of where I remember this from the Champions League quarter-final, was a bit drunk, tipsy, let's say. And I remember thinking, this staircase, a bit dangerous, you know. And I remember years and years ago, there was a midweek set of fixtures where I travelled up to Newcastle and every game was getting called off. And Man City was one of them. It was because of high winds. And I think it's part of that. It's actually the danger of the staircases. So, look, am I saying Man City Tottenham's going to be off tomorrow? No, it's probably not, mate. But I'm saying if it's as windy there tomorrow as it is today, it might be a problem. The reports are it won't be. So, I mean, I'm not a weatherman. I imagine that all the games will go ahead. But yes, I intend to wait till the morning to just get a little bit of a clearer idea. If you're an owner of Tottenham assets like Son Kane, I wouldn't stress about it. Ain't gonna do nothing tomorrow anyway, I don't think. Sagnick says, like the stream, guys, and subscribe to the channel. The amount of work Jimbo does for the community is unreal. Loads of love. Very much appreciate that, Sagnick. Thank you very much. Yeah, smashing the like, hitting the subscribe button, whether you're on YouTube or whether you're listening on the audio, is all very much appreciated. I believe you can give 5-star ratings and reviews on Spotify now as well. Someone told me. If you're listening to the audio and you like what you're hearing, crack on, it'd be much appreciated. John Bailey says, bench of Dallo, Ramsey, Cancelo and De Gea. Would you bench boost this over triple captain Salah? No. It's near enough my bench, mate. Now, admittedly, yours is a little bit better because yours will be Cancelo rather than Maupay. Not Maupay, sorry, Trossard. But it's the same as what I'd answered to the previous question. I mean, if United concede, you're in trouble. Do you really, really fancy United for a clean sheet at Leeds? I don't. Suj does, for example. So there's a little bit of personal opinion. I believe there'll be better opportunity. And again, I'd say to what I said to the previous questioner, John, I'd revisit Cancelo because I would play him over the majority of doublers this week. Steve says, afternoon, mate. Is it worth doing the transfers tonight, as I think there will be a lot of price changes? As said, ideally, wait till tomorrow. The chances are it'll be fine. It is the most likely. So I think if you're doing a -4 and you've got two players who are going to drop in price and you've got two players going up in price, it's almost worthwhile to risk and justifiable to take it. I get that. But if you can wait till tomorrow morning, and not everybody can, I understand that, then ideally, yes, do so. Jim says, all right, James. Yes, thank you. You reckon Reguilon out for a hit when I have Laporte, Alonso in reserve? Cheers. No, I'd prioritise moving Alonso. If you're holding Alonso for the possibility of game week 28 and stuff, I definitely would not bank on him playing twice. They've been flip-flopping between two systems. The back four is definitely bad for Alonso. You've got Malang Sarr can play, obviously left back now, we've seen. They've put Kennedy back in from loan, who I'm sure will get an appearance at some point. So, honestly, I would prioritise moving on Alonso from that. Even with, Palace away tomorrow, no guarantee he plays, honestly. I'd move Alonso on. Pushkar says, I can only play one of Antonio, Ramsey or Dennis. Who should I start? Dennis, mate. And it's not a case of the doubler. It's not the case that I would play Cancelo over Dennis this week, for example. Antonio, unfortunately, is just showing no form. And Jacob Ramsey is not going to play Leeds United every week. Home to Watford tomorrow? Yeah, decent. Do I think he outscores Dennis over 2 games? I think Dennis would just need one return, wouldn't he? The chances are Ramsey blanks and Dennis blanks twice, right? And Dennis gets you 4 points rather than Ramsey's 2 or 3. I'd play Dennis. Ross Johnson says, best overhead kick. Rooney v City, Zlatan's versus England, Sinclair for QPR in the Cup, Sinclair for me. Also, FPL player that's most likely to nick a 28-day age stake from M&S if he wasn't a footballer. Player most likely to nick a stake from M&S if he wasn't a footballer. Wow. God. I'll come back to that. Best overhead kicks. The only thing, the 3 you name's great. A few to add in, and one of them is definitely my favourite. They're all brilliant goals. I think from those you named, probably Trevor Sinclair's for QPR against Barnsley in the Cup in 1997. Zlatan's against England for Sweden is astonishing. But adding Bale in the Champions League final for Real Madrid against Liverpool. I mean, Champions League final as well, right? That's got to matter. But I think my favourite one, although it was chested up, it was just immaculate, was Rivaldo for Barcelona against Valencia. Last minute of the La Liga season. They had to win to finish above Valencia to qualify for the Champions League. And that was for his hat-trick as well. Came to on the edge of the box, he chested it up and bicycle kicked it from the edge of the area into the bottom corner. Like, incredible. So I think the Rivaldo goal against Valencia, if you've never seen that, Rivaldo hat-trick versus Valencia, get hold of that. That's just about the best hat-trick you'll ever see. That's from, I'm sure that was 2001, I want to say. Andras Yames says, afternoon, James. I think Mane starts the Leeds game, but what about Norwich at the weekend? Also, is Sanchez to Pope worth a -4 over the next 2 game weeks? I need to do the M&S question. Player to steal a stake from M&S. If it wasn't a footballer. Declan Rice. Declan Rice looks like he needs feeding. Mane start the Leeds game. Yeah, okay. Guess the team tomorrow. Mane probably starts. No idea. Sanchez to Pope worth a -4 over the 2 game weeks. Probably yes. Probably yes. CR7 fan says, hey James, would you sell Elise for a -4 or just hope he starts both? I'd probably hope he starts both or bench him. You're hoping. Yeah, you are hoping. But also, it's easy to say, would I sell him? What are you buying, mate? You know, if it's Saka, then I'm probably going to say, yeah, probably do it. But again, it depends on your future strategy a little bit. Shuri MC says, hi, James. Opinion, bench boost, fun. Foster, Coutinho, Ramsey, Dean have 9 double game week. Cancelo, Bowen, thanks. Yep, I love that. 9 double game week players, Cancelo, Bowen. That's exactly where I'm at with it. Imagine it's interesting. Obviously, just reflecting on it. All 4 of your players are in the same game. It's gonna, that's gonna finish 1-1, don't you, Cherie? With like Callum Chambers and Craig Cathcart scoring the goals, and you're there with your 8-pointer. No, I don't think so. No. Thomas says, hi James. Thoughts on these moves? Bruno to Salah. Great. Bernardo to Saka. Great. Jota to Rafinha. Yep, cool. Johnson to Tierney. Still sounds fine to me, mate. Tyrell Maxfield. Do you think the UK Storms will affect any of the matches this game week? Already covered that a little while ago. Not going to cover again. Thanks for the question. Ludwig says, hi James. My transfer dilemma this week ultimately comes down to moving Jota to Saka or to Son. Either way, I would get Son for game week 27, not using the free hit. Meaning Saka would cost me an extra -4 faults. Well, in that case, I think Son. I think go for Son. If you're going anyway, take the 2 fixtures now. So it's going to cost you again, isn't it? If you know you want Son in 27, go now, I think. Go now. FPL telling Josh says, hi James, hope you and the family are well. Benching dilemma, sorry. Family's well, thank you, mate. Just hiding from the wind at the moment. I would get Son for game... no, you wouldn't. That's the previous question. I need to play 2 of Coutinho, Ramsey, Cancelo and Breuer. What's your preference? Thanks, mate. Cancelo and Breuer. Straightforward, that. Those 2 for me. Sean Mira says, hi James, thoughts on wildcard this week without using a free hit in game week 27. Still have triple captain, bench boost and second free hit in hand. If I was wildcarding now, I think I would go 5 from Liverpool and Arsenal. I think I would go... I would leave myself obviously a free transfer to move next week. So if I was wildcarding now, I'd be very tempted to have sort of Mane ready to maybe move to like Bruno Fernandes for next week or something like that. Maybe it's just off the top of my head suggestion, but I'd definitely have Ramsdale. That would be a certainty. I'd have Ramsdale. I'd have Trent, I'd have Salah, I'd have Kieran Tierney, and that would be the bench in game week 27. That's how I'd be setting up for it. I don't love it, because you're wildcarding now without the knowledge that you'll have in 2 weeks' time from the FA Cup 5th round, which is absolutely critical on future planning strategy. So I'm not a fan of it personally, but that's how I would go about doing it. Sam C says, what's Emerson Royal's likelihood of playing both games? Yikes. The thing is, his Leeds at 12:30 on the Saturday in game week 27 as well. He doesn't start all three. He might start Man City, Burnley, and he might give you a headache against Leeds. That's how I'd read it at the moment. I wonder if Conte might just write off tomorrow at City, possibly with some of his selections. I would say you're 50-50. You're 50-50. Emerson Royal is first choice because he's, I was going to say better, that's not correct. He's not as bad as Doherty. Plays twice. And the thing is, for the 100th time, as I say it nearly weekly on these streams and pods, Tottenham wingbacks are going to give you a headache. They have to get through too much work. Why did Reguilon not play against Wolves? I don't know. Maybe he had COVID. Maybe he wasn't actually even in the stadium. I don't know. I cannot explain why he didn't even come on as a substitute last week. Them Tottenham wing-backs are going to give you a headache. Frankly, we're not as good defensively as everybody thought we were because we were keeping clean sheets against the likes of Norwich at home, Brentford at home, Palace at home and Watford away. Everton away. Big whoop. James 98. Wow, didn't know about the Eden news. Such a shame. Do you think that relegates Norwich now? I think it's a monster blow for them. It's really, really bad. I really do. I think he'd changed the way they were playing a little bit in the sense that it meant that they could ping balls into him and it would stick up front. He had a good link with both Pukki and particularly Milo Rashica on the left hand side. I think it's a big blow. I really wanted to get him in my FPL team. I just thought it was, with the forward situation, it was ideal to have him as a substitute every week and then possibly use him for maybe things like Brentford at home in game week 28. It's a massive blow for them. Massive, massive, massive. We've all written Norwich off once before though, and I'm reluctant to do it again, but if you're asking me my opinion, yes, I still think they'll go down, and Ida's injury is certainly not going to help. More the Explorer says, does Pedro Neto really have an impact this season? Well, it's February the 18th, mate, and there's 3 months to go, and according to Bruno Lage this afternoon, he's training. So look, he's obviously not going to start tomorrow. Does he have an impact on the rest of this season? Yeah, why not? Why not? He is a brilliant player. So why not? We're not going to know till we see him, are we? The Flying Dutchman says, Jimenez or Lacazette, would you take King or Edouard out for either? Nah, wouldn't bother, mate. And in terms of buying, yeah, it's the same thing. I would buy Jimenez. If I was free hitting this week, I'd be looking at Lacazette genuinely, but I would not want Lacazette in anything other than this week. FPL Mike Halpin says, listen to Met Office Twitter space earlier. Weather should be okay for tomorrow's matches. Yes, it should be. Zikwan says, how about Reggie, keep or sell? It's nightmare, isn't it? Do you know what your best thing for Reguilon is? That he misses tomorrow and he plays against Burnley and Leeds. In which case, he's a strong keep. But it's a problem. It's an ongoing problem. And I know people look at his XG and say, this is terrific. Yeah, he's going to give you a headache regularly in terms of his minutes by the looks of it. Now, once we get past 27, then in terms of the backlog of Tottenham's fixtures in terms of playing, Tottenham have got 4 games inside 10 days. Reguilon, even if Reguilon we think may obviously have COVID, I'm guessing, because one Tottenham player has and he's not been in the training photos. So the 2 and 2 together makes you think that it might be him. I don't know that. I have no ITK. I do not factually know that. But he's not going to, even if he hasn't, he's not going to play all 4 of them games, is he? There's no way he's playing Man City, Burnley, Leeds and Middlesbrough in 10 days. No way. So somewhere along the line, and it's the same for Emerson, somewhere along the line is going to miss out. And honestly, the best thing if you own either of them is that they miss tomorrow and they miss Middlesbrough in the Cup. And they play Burnley and Leeds. That's the best thing for you. It easily could be the other way around, where they play just Man City. Could easily be. Emerson could easily play Man City tomorrow and not play at Burnley or Leeds. I have no idea what Conte is going to do with them. They have to get through an absurd amount of work. Conte also needs to try other options at right wing back. I think we're in a position now where, not tomorrow, but for Burnley in the week, you need to think about trying Lucas Moura or something at right wing back now, because them two are just not good enough, Emerson and Doherty. Region, XG, XA, all those things, great. He also doesn't have composure in the final moments in terms of his finishing, and he's going to frustrate you. I'd be looking to move on. Unfortunately, if you're an owner, I don't think you can until probably after game week 28. CR7 fan says, sell Elise for -4 or keep and hope he plays. I feel like I've already done this one. Red or Dead 69 says, hi James, love your show. Much respect to Planet FPL. Thanks very much, mate. Have a great weekend. Daniel Sullivan says, hi James, great stuff as always. Would you rather have an Arsenal defender for 26 but then have to play King in 27, or have a Burnley defender in 26 who would then also play ahead of King in 27? Probably the Arsenal player. Let's not make out that Manchester United are the best defensive team. We're on 6 clean sheets this season. They were a little bit lucky to get the 6th on Tuesday night. So probably the Arsenal player in the first instance. Philip Sukta says, hi James, thanks for the great content. Do you think a strategy of -8 this week for 8 doublers, free hit 27, no second free hit left, and wildcard 28 can work for the rest of the season? Okay, let's look at that. So -8 for now. So if you're free hitting next week wildcard 28, literally are the players you're going to get in going to get you in excess of 8 points over the players you're selling? That is your only decision to make. And if you truly, truly believe so, you crack on and do it, mate. Free hit 27, fine. That's going to be dependent on where people are at. That's okay. Wildcard 28 with no free hits left. I need to know what you're going to do with free hit with game week 30. What are you going to do with it? Because naturally, you're going to look ahead from wildcard in 28 and go, shit, let's just say it's just the 3 games. We can do wildcard in a load of Villa, Arsenal, and Leicester, Brentford. And I mean, Arsenal, if they double in 28, great. You go with 3 of them. You can have a cut of Villa, great. You want a wildcard in Leicester players? I'm not sure that you'd particularly do. Brentford, have a decent run. You can have a budget one or so. Wolves, fine. Like, you can have some defensive options. You can go Rafinha from Leeds. But then what? What do you want from Liverpool? Liverpool, City, Chelsea going to have a double. What are you going to do? I think if you wildcard in 28 and you haven't got a free hit left for 30, I think in all likelihood, the best advice I can give you is go into game week 30 with 4 or 5 players and suck it up and let it be. That's the best advice I could give you. Thomas says, also, do you think aiming for 8-9 players in game week 30 is enough, mate? My first advice is don't aim at the moment. Honestly, right? A lot of people talking about Liverpool rotation, okay? So, we've just played Burnley Sunday into Wednesday. It's Norwich tomorrow. Then it's Leeds Wednesday. And then it's Chelsea Sunday in the Carabao Cup final. Well, 3 days after the Carabao Cup final, they play Norwich again. 3 days before they play West Ham in game week 28 is likely to be mass rotation. What if they get beat? Is that improbable that Liverpool mass rotate for Norwich in the FA Cup penalties, and then suddenly we got Liverpool and Manchester United on easy? Then how many players are you aiming for in game week 30? Almost impossible to say, isn't it? So what happens if Tottenham and West Ham suddenly lose in the FA Cup? It's not impossible. Tottenham got Middlesbrough away. West Ham go to Southampton. It's not impossible. Then what? What if Tottenham and West Ham's on in game week 30? In fact, it doesn't even necessarily have to be that. Because if Man City beat Peterborough and Tottenham lose at Middlesbrough, I would expect Brighton and Tottenham to go into game week 30. Don't aim for it yet. Honestly. Don't aim for game week 30 yet. And how many players is enough in that game week is going to be absolutely subject to what fixtures there are. Honestly, if it's only going to be, say, the 3 fixtures, 5-6 players struggle through, that is okay. I will probably be free hitting to take the full complement, but I wouldn't stress too much about it. It's honestly completely dependent Sorry if a few of you are suffering a little bit of disturbance with the Wi-Fi. It's windy out. Let's move on to the next question. Meninda says, struggling to decide whether to free hit in 27 or not. Have to. Head says, decide whether to free hit in 27 or not. Have to. Have to what? Head says not. Oh, you have 2 free hits. Sorry, I understand. Head says not to, but Heart wants 3 Liverpool, 3 Arsenal this week, which forces free hit in 27. Any insight that would sway me? Well, the only insight I could give you is that I'm likely to take a hit for a couple of Burnley players because I don't want to free hit in game week 27. It's okay if you want to go that way. So I could do that now, couldn't I? I could take the -4. So the plan is to sell Diop's, the other player I'm selling. It's got to go. It's got to go by 27, so you might as well go now for a doubler. So I could, for example, buy Robertson and Saka. Now on paper, that is miles better than Tarkowski and Cornet. Of course it is. I'm not a complete idiot. I realise that. But it's not better for 27. It puts me in a much stronger position for 27. So it's about finding the balance between your weeks in terms of what you want. I don't want to free hit in 27. Don't want to. Because I think what I've got is okay, personally. So I don't want to free hit. Now, if I suddenly have a few injuries this week, I may get forced into it anyway. And at that point, I'll regret not buying Robertson and Saka, I should imagine. But I will have a second look tonight just to make sure I'm happy that I wouldn't free hit in game week 27. But it's highly likely that I'm not going to at the moment. Howard says, hi James, is Mane now a better option for those who have Salah and a bit of cash to spend, or are there better options for less? Example, Saka. I don't mind if anyone wants to go Sadio Mane right now. Again, it's factoring in what are you doing for game week 27 if you go down that route. So it might be that you're going Mane now. You might, for example, you might be going from Bruno Fernandes to Mane. You might find you're going back to Bruno Fernandes next week, and you might find you're going back to Sadio Mane or Diogo Jota the week after. Now, in principle, that's all fine as moves for 3 game weeks. But chances are you're going to have some other issues over that period, aren't you? Plus fixture announcements, information that's going to help us for game week 30 and beyond, really importantly, between game weeks 27 and 28. But just on the face of it, like if you want to buy Mane, on the face of it, it looks absolutely fine. I don't particularly have an issue with it. A-Man says, James, big shout out for your podcast a couple of weeks ago on the possible doubles and blanks. Much appreciated. Best FPL content I've heard all season. Love it. Really appreciate that, mate. We will do a pod for you as well after the FA Cup 5th round on the Friday. So the Friday before game week 28 starts. We'll do a pod on that Friday, just kind of reconfirming how it looks once those FA Cup ties are completed, what it means for game week 30, what it then means in terms of likelihood for game week 33, 36 and other doubles in and around that as well. So we'll do that before the game week 28 deadline for you as well. Pushcast says, hi James, what are the potential free hit game weeks after 30? We know that we can use the chip in 27 and 30, but now is the rest of the season looking for a template team. It's really unpredictable, right? So even right at the end, game week 37. Listen, if Chelsea and Liverpool's the FA Cup final and they get to Champions League semi-final, there's every chance that they're gonna double in 37 after the FA Cup final and possibly have to play Tuesday and Thursday. You might decide that's suitable for a free hit right at the end, maybe even. You might even decide free hit. I know a lot of people religiously like free hitting in the final game week. I'm not big on it, but I think a lot of us did that during the restart period a couple of seasons ago. Game week 32, 34, 35, really unpredictable in terms of how many fixtures. We might, as I said, all suddenly be looking at game week 29. If some of those 30 fixtures get brought forward and they throw in some of the odd fixtures that haven't been arranged for some reason, you know, Wolves versus Watford, those sort of thing. If they break Brighton versus Tottenham, if they put those sort of fixtures into, I think 29 more than 28. I don't think that's likely, but it's possible. This is unknown to people in terms of what we can lay out. You know, myself, Ben Krellin, Lego Mane, Ian Parrin, the guys who really kind of look at the strategy side of these things. We can lay out our ideas and our spreadsheets and stuff like that. None of us actually know what the Premier League are going to do. I, for example, don't think Liverpool and Arsenal will be played in game week 29. I know that a lot of other people do, for example. My belief is that it will have to clash with a Champions League night, and therefore Sky won't want to show the game and also won't want to lose the game, and therefore it will be played later in the season. But it could be that they go, yeah, fine, play Arsenal-Liverpool on a Champions League night in game week 29. It's very possible. I think it's probably more likely that if Man City beat Peterborough, that City against Brighton in game week 30 might get put forward to game week 29. As I said, that might open up the possibility of Tottenham lose to Middlesbrough for Brighton and Tottenham to go into game week 30. There are endless possibilities at the moment in terms of what can happen with these rearranged fixtures. Ben's right when he said, I think that this is the best quote I've heard all of it. Ben Crellin said, every game week left might be a double game week except for game week 30 and game week 38. Game week 30 because there's internationals afterwards, and game week 38 because it's the end of the season. Every game week left might be a double game week. So there will be opportunities for free hits. Principal idea right now for me is 30 and 33. I'm prepared to be quite flexible on both of those ideas at the moment. Joe Finney-Barrett says, thoughts on Bruno to Mane for a hit. Free hit in 27. Yeah. That's a really good example where I think I go, yeah, because excuse me, presumably Joe's going to free hit Bruno back in 27. And in 28, Bruno's got Man City away. So you'd probably want to move that on anyway. So, yeah, I think that's a great example, Joe, where you're going, yeah, look, you're judging it on the 1 week. Does Mane score more than Fernandes this week by 5 or more? I think yes. Plus, you'll prefer to return to that in 28, particularly if Liverpool did end up with that 29 double, rather than returning to Bruno Fernandes in 28. So, yeah, I'm okay with that, mate. Rahul says, I'm just going to cover 3 more, guys, because I've got to go and pick the little one up in a little while from his childminder. Rahul says, hi, James, thanks for thoughts. Benching dilemma that I'd appreciate help on. Who do I start in playing 11 between Jacob Ramsey, Dennis and King? Who do you start? With just one of them, Dennis. Dennis, King, Ramsey would be my order of that. Dennis actually was quite unlucky not to return against Brighton next week, which I know because he's frustrating. People want to overlook that. But Dennis over King, and then King over Ramsey because the double. That's where I'd be at with it. Lamichi says, hi James, would you go Jota and Antonio to Son and Weghorst for a -8? Would bench Rudiger in that case? Treat them both individually, -4. Jota to Son. Fine, yeah. Antonio to Weghorst. Double. Fine. Ragav says, hi James, how many doublers minimum do you think are worth bench boosting? It doesn't matter. It can be none. You can bench boost this game week. If someone was sitting there generally, had the ideal kind of 3 Liverpool, 3 Arsenal, let's just say you had Kane's son, a couple of Wolves players, and genuinely looking and going, James, I have to bench Cancelo and Bowen. Say you're sitting there with Cancelo, Bowen, Sanchez and Maupay, all single game week fixtures, or even Breuer. Let's say Breuer, right? Might work better budget wise. Let's say you've got that Sanchez, Cancelo, Bowen, Breuer. Yeah, I think you bench boost that. But is that genuinely your weakest 11? Genuinely. So I think you'd need to almost have put together that free hit team of all Liverpool, Arsenal, Wolves and the big Tottenham boys to actually be in that position. I don't believe anybody's particularly in that position to have it that strong. So, but yeah, definitely you can bench that bench. You do not have to have doublers to bench. A principal idea of mine would be that I would want a goalkeeper with a double personally. But not essential. A nice way to finish it is what I always say: play it your way. There's not a right or wrong, and there's people here who've asked questions about bench boosting, and I've said no, I wouldn't. And I know a couple of them are probably still going to do it because they want to do it, and that's okay. If you believe it, it's absolutely fine. I would generally, on bench boost, I would want to target 16 points. If you look at your bench and you don't feel confident it's going to hit 16 points, I think that makes it a definite no. The reason 16 points I say is because if you were to do it in a double and have 4 doublers, 4 fixtures times 2 is 8. 8 times 2 is a basic 16 points. That's what you'd want. Triple captaincy, I wouldn't actually value that higher, but because we got Mo Salah's week, I think it's a little bit different, where actually there's more value on the chip this season than in other seasons. Normally with a triple captaincy, anybody who could get me 10 points, I'd be well happy with that. Well happy to get 10 extra points on a triple captaincy. Most of us are going Mo Salah this week will be disappointed, I think, if all we get out of it is 10 points. So you have to factor that into your thinking. If obviously you're not using triple captaincy, when in the future, there will be opportunities, but there will never be one greater than this. And there will definitely be better bench boost opportunities, but I also understand, as many say, many feel handicapped by obviously wildcarding later in the season and bench boosting, where they have to plan for the bench boost. They feel handicapped. They feel they lose on points in other weeks because they plan so heavily for that specific bench boost. And I get that as well. There isn't a right or wrong. Play it your way as ever, guys. Thanks very much. For those who I didn't get through questions, if you want to send me a screenshot of your question from the chat, pop it in my DMs. I'll have a look at it for you later this evening. Next week is going to be a really, really bloody difficult week for me, because I'm going to Burnley on Wednesday lunchtime for the game on Wednesday night, and I'm going to be back Thursday afternoon. That means a tight schedule for me this week. It doesn't mean less content, of course it doesn't. Me and Suj will be back on Monday, obviously reviewing the weekend game week 26 games, and we'll do the same next Friday. Despite the fact that it is a Friday deadline, we're going to record early next Friday. Get something in your ears for lunchtime next Friday ahead of the game week 27 deadline. Tuesday's podcast is to be confirmed, but there will be one. Wednesday will still be Sky Fantasy Football, and Thursday will be Clash of the Correspondents. Next week, ahead of the blank game week, will be Brentford versus Newcastle with FPL Dummy Tom and FPL_Footballer. And there will be obviously 5 additional podcasts on our Patreon network from intermediate tier next week, which will include a look on Tuesday at what we would do on a game week 27 free hit. If you'd like to support our content, it's www.patreon.com/planetfpl. For the YouTube subscribers, I'll be back online tomorrow for the deadline stream at 10 a.m. UK time. Other than that, for the benefit of those listening on the audio, cue music please, man child.